Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the second shelf and to sort of kind of Friday reads, but on Saturday. Yes, I know it's Saturday, and we do Friday reads on Friday, but I was a bit under the weather earlier this week, and yesterday was still, I didn't feel it. I felt a bit, so I thought, I just wait another day and I feel much better. Thank you very much. So I thought I'd do the Friday reads on Saturday. There you go. Anyway, the still doing the exact same thing and starting off with the books that I finished. And the first one is a collection of essays, Laurie Penny, Bitch Doctrine, which I talked quite a bit, I think, if I remember correctly, last week. It's a collection of feminist essays. I read it together with Kathleen. It was published 2017, and the essays were written between 2013 and 2017. And Laurie Penny is a British Londoner writer born in 1986. So she is 14, she's in her mid-30s. And I thought it was interesting to read, and so did my buddy reader, Kathleen, interesting to read, sort of the feminist approach by the younger generation. I mean, if I had children, they would probably be now in their 30s. So that was really interesting. And it covers quite a broad variety of topics. It's very political. It is sometimes specifically about something in the UK, and that at times was lost at me because I didn't know the law that was just passed, or I didn't know the politician she was talking about. But most of the essays they are just give a broader point of view about violence against women, about gender stereotypes, about the strong woman kind of thing, for instance. So they cover quite a lot when it comes to feminism. If you watch my earlier Friday reads, back then I said they're good, but it's not very deep or not very new. But I think that comes also because, first of all, I'm older, so I've read a lot of feminist literature when I was younger. The important literature at that time for me, from Simone de Beauvoir to Betty Friedan, that kind of thing. And I've been reading together with Kathleen quite a bit of feminist literature the last 1.5 years. But if you are somebody who is interested in the feminist topic but hasn't read a lot about it and hasn't really, has a background of knowledge and reading, then I would say this is a very good collection to start off with, especially if you are in that age range, let's say between 25 and 35. So, but for me, it was a good read, but nothing special. But again, that was more me than the book. The next book I want to talk about that I finished is SciFi Dystopian. Within the genre, I would say it's dystopian fiction, and that is Sarah Pinska's We Are Satellites, published earlier this year in May 2021. And if you follow my channel, you know that I have this project, genre spotlight, as I call it, sci-fi. So I try to read new sci-fi, but also modern classics and sci-fi books that I missed, of course, all written by women. And even though Sarah Pinska, she is a young, in my view, a young American writer, and she has written more than 50 and published more than 50 short stories. I had never heard of her and never read her. And the book was recommended to me by another booktuber that I only discovered recently. And I will leave a link to her channel down below. The channel is called Booktube Goddess, and she is a booktuber drag queen. If you're interested, especially in fantasy and sci-fi, because that's mostly what she reads, I would certainly recommend the channel. And she's has such a lovely personality. And I completely hooked to her live streams, which she always does on Saturday. That's 9 o'clock my time, so German time, where she puts on her drag makeup and we talk about books, and that's fabulous. So if you are into sci-fi fantasy and if you want to learn something about makeup and drag queen makeup, check out the live stream on Saturday, and I'll leave a link to the channel, as I said, down below. But anyway, she talked about this book, and it's set in the near future, and centers around a family, two women and their children, a son and a daughter, and the son, David, wants to have a pilot, and that is the new brain implant that helps you multitask. That's the short version. And then the plot takes off from there, and it goes from David is, I think, in his early teens when the book starts, when he wants that implant, but it will go over quite a couple of years and what the problems are with this implant. I mean, you can imagine. I don't want to spoil anything, so that's the premise. It is a very easygoing read. It was just the type of read I needed at the time. As you know, I'm doing this, 30 books in 30 days challenge, and then sometimes you just need, a breather and something interesting from a premise, but also light, that you can, at least I can read fast and easily. So for that purpose, if you're interested in that, I would certainly recommend this book. And thank you to the Booktube Goddess for alerting me to it. And the last book I want to talk about that I finished is Sarah Winman's new novel, Still Life, which came out earlier this year. And I was very excited because if you remember, I loved her previous book, Tin Man. I thought it was just fabulous. And of course, that also means that you go into a book with high expectations, and it didn't quite live up to it, but it was more me than the book. And also that I expected something different. And blurbs can be very misleading, because the blurb tells me that we are in Tuscany in 1944, and you have this 60-something year old art historian, and she meets with a much, much younger, in his 20s, British soldier, and they form a deep connection and friendship, and that's what I expected. That's not what the book is about. The book is mainly about the life. I mean, they meet in Tuscany in 1944, but then we leave Evelyn for quite a bit, until almost the end of the book. And we stay with the soldier, whose name is Ulysses, and we learn about his life after the war until the 1970s or even later, I think. So he's 20, and at the end he's in his 50s. And she is, it's 20 years, because she is in her 80s when we meet her again. So I was expecting a book about the friendship of these two people, and I probably wouldn't have picked up the book if I had known it's a book about him. It was just not my thing. It's beautifully written, and if you go in with this different attitude than I had, and are interested in the life of a soldier after the war, and what becomes of him, and there's a lot of talk about art, because he also he loves Florence, and it's set in Britain and partly in Florence, then you might really, really love this book. But for me, it was just not quite it. So sorry about that. So those were the 3 books that I want to talk about that I finished last week, and on to the books that I'm still reading. I'm still working my way through Ruby Fruit Jungle by Rita Mae Brown. Didn't make much of progress about this coming-of-age story, published in 1973, lesbian coming-of-age story. I'm almost finished with The House on the Lagoon, which I'm reading with Terry. about a marriage in Puerto Rico, and Isabel, the wife, writes a novel about the family history, and Quentin, the husband, discovers that secret manuscript, and it's not what he would write about the family. So that's the premise of the story. And so far, I'm really enjoying it. Like I said, I'm almost done. So yeah, and I'm also reading. There was one other book that I was reading, and I almost forgot. That's what you get. Oh yes, of course, because I don't have a physical copy here. I read it as an ebook on Script, and that is a translated work of fiction, Yanta Mash on the Landing. And that is translated from the Yiddish by Alan Cassidy and published in 2019. It's a collection of short stories, and I'm reading this together with Heidi from My Reading Life, and we will also finish up this weekend. And the last book I want to mention is a book that I started just after my last Friday Reads on Saturday, and also will be finishing up this weekend, today to be exact, on Saturday, and that is Earth, a memoir by Rebecca Schiller, published earlier this year. And Rebecca Schiller is she's a British woman, and the memoir is centering around her mental health issues while having turned around her life, so to speak, by moving from London to a small holding in the countryside and growing food and having livestock and still having 2 jobs in London. And she has a husband and 2 children. And it's all a bit much. And I will talk more about this book when I finished it, because I want to check in with Jo first, because I'm reading it with JoSmit. But it's not quite, again, what I expected. I expected much more. The title of this, much more about the earth, nature writing. And it is in there, and that part is absolutely beautiful, and about what she grows and what works and what doesn't work, and what the mistakes she makes, and about vegetables and flowers and goats, and I love it. And also the history of small holdings in general, but this particular small holding, and what it means to, have land, not just, an apartment, but to have land, and that you are responsible for that land. That part I really, really love, and I expected to be the core of the book, and it isn't. And the mental health thing, I didn't connect with it. That's what I can say up to now, because Jo knows that already. And I will let you know more once I finish the book later today. And now let me check my list, because it's a Saturday and I'm all frazzled. But no, those were all the books that I meant to talk to you about yesterday. The books I finished, still reading, and almost finished. Thank you very much for watching. Sorry for being a day late. I hope you enjoyed the video. As always, I'm very much looking forward to your comments, and I'll see you all soon in the next one.